Thompson and Game Plan U. That's Molly over there. Hi, Molly.
Good morning, everybody. Greetings from Philly.
Well, Molly, we are live on Sports Biz Radio and Game Plan U on Facebook. So if we do have questions coming up, what I'll do is I'll just pop them up. You'll be able to read them below, and I'll read them out to you. WNBA, NBA, NFL with the Eagles for so many years. You are definitely a well-respected legend in the industry, and we're very, very proud.
Seasoned professional,
Yeah,
which is
yes,
the way
you
to
are a
say
legend.
old veteran.
Well, you listen, you got to take it, right?
Absolutely.
So, let's tell us about your story. I mean, you have so much knowledge in the industry. You are now founder of POV Sports Marketing. You are an entrepreneur. You survived many years in this industry, which is an honor in and of itself.
It is.
Right. A lot of battle scars we all have.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I'm going to just get it out there and date myself a bit, but I graduated from St. Lawrence University with a degree in government and Spanish in 1991. And it was an interesting time to graduate because we had just gone into Kuwait to, with the Persian Gulf One, we'll call it. And the economy was in a recession, and was here you try to go find a job. I was very fortunate to have good stalking abilities, I'll call it. But when I graduated from St. Lawrence, a gentleman named Mark McCormick, who some of you may know. If you don't, Google him. Google Mark McCormick Sports. It's MACK at the end, by the way. And a gentleman named Mark McCormick spoke at my graduation from St. Lawrence, and there were some kids that were going to protest graduation for some reason. And the president of the senior class, Tim Charlton, said to me, "You have to go defend the speaker in front of the dean and the president," and so on and so forth. So I had to go to the library. This is pre-internet, people. Yes, I am not that old, but pre-internet is early 90s. And I had to go and investigate this guy, Mark McCormick, and I found this industry. And I was like, "What do you mean you can actually get a job in sports? This is crazy." So after graduation, he did speak. There was no protest. I really stalked him. And one of the things he talked about on our graduation speech is he said, everybody has a genius, and you have to figure out what that genius is and then push that into your career. And that old adage of, if you find what you truly love and it is your genius, you'll never work a day in your life. And so one of my genius at the time was I was fluent in Spanish. I had lived in Spain. I was truly fluent, had been there for a year, and had studied really since 6th grade. And so my Spanish is what landed me my first job, and that was working for IMG in Cleveland in, I guess it would have been 1992, because while I was waiting to get this job in this recession, I actually moved to Japan and taught English to Japanese executives for 9 or 10 months, and then came back and waited tables a little bit. But that was kind of my path into the sports industry. I was with IMG for 4 years working on Latin America, helping them launch a whole region of the world, which I loved. And then was traveling so much, I decided I did want to come back into domestic sports marketing. Was with the Detroit Pistons and Palace Sports and Entertainment for 4 years, from 1996 to 2000, with an amazing group of people. And really, one of the highlights of my career was working at the Palace for Dan Hauser with, me and 14 guys. I was the first woman ever hired to do sports sponsorship sales for Palace Sports and Entertainment. So I showed up early and I stayed late, and I kept up with the guys. And I actually ran past maybe a couple of them, though they wouldn't admit it. After the Palace, I was fortunate enough to be hired by a guy named Len Komorowski to work at the Philadelphia Eagles from 2000 to 2006. And then I was recruited by the NBA to come in and basically create a sales group for the WNBA. And in the middle of my tenure with the WNBA, I happened to become engaged to my husband, Craig. And so I took a few years out of the business to welcome 2 little boys into the world. They are pitter-pattering upstairs. I've asked them to be quiet, but there's no guarantees. They have short memories. And after I took my child hiatus, if you will, I came back into the sports world as a national sales representative for Learfield Sports. and really just hit the college sports at the right time. It was just exploding. It was such an exciting time. Really great people. Exciting to see Greg Brown retire and be able to look back at the legacy of what he's built over his tenure. I salute you, sir. And after Learfield, I had an opportunity to go back to the Philadelphia Eagles as the vice president of corporate partnerships and lead the group that I had once been a director in. So it kind of came full circle back to Philly. And after 3.5 years with them, I decided that I wanted to start my own shop. My passion in sports is really about constructing deals and creating balance of assets that allow you to really activate them year to year in a really innovative way and have them be flexible and nimble enough to adjust with the times, especially in social media. And decided that my next best move was to start my own shop and advise brands and properties. But we do not sell sponsorships. We teach people how to do it. So that's a little bit about my track in the business.
Well, you are like the international woman of mystery.
Yeah, I don't think you knew about the Japan and the Spain part, but it's kind of funny that I've been very fortunate in my life to get to do some things that scared the bejesus out of me when I was facing them, but it was the right thing to do. I was terrified to go to Japan, and I got on a plane and I flew to Japan, and I had a job obviously before I flew there, but I think sometimes things that scare us are the things that we should lean in on, so they're not so scary.
I heard this great, I agree with you. I heard this great quote one time when I asked an executive with NBC, with the Golf Channel, what advice do you give to someone just starting off? And he said, yes, just say yes. Like, don't worry about it, right? You want to get into the industry, right? Just say yes, and then figure it out from there. So let's talk about POV. Let's talk about POV sports marketing. What do you guys do? How did you launch it? And what was your thought process when you started it?
Great question. So when I launched POV, I was really, when you're in sales, you're essentially a marketing consultant to clients. You're just consulting and advising them to buy what you're selling. And I think if you look at it that way, making a jump to the agency side from the selling side, because I had sold sports sponsorship for really 25 years. I had sold everything from obviously the NBA, the NFL, the WNBA, Palace Sports and Entertainment was the Detroit Pistons, by the way. So, and I sold the Detroit Shock, which was WNBA at the team level. Everything from the Harlem Globetrotters when they came to town to the circus. So, and music, I sold sponsorships to an amphitheater. So, as I have the background, because I've had to sell the assets in order to be knowledgeable, you have to really understand your space, the demographics, the type of consumer that engages with sponsors that partner with teams. And so it was really easy for me to go to the other side. And so my goal with starting POV was to really, and again, the name is in and of itself, I provide a perspective from the selling side as well as the buying side. I know what a seller is thinking. I know where those soft negotiation points are. People forget to negotiate little things in a deal like annual increase that can really creep up on you. And you're so focused on the assets and the money, you forget, oh my God, I just agreed to playoffs and it's at 15% or 10%. Or whatever it might be, and it's way too high, and you take your eye off the ball. So that POV that I have made sense to name the company POV Sports Marketing. And so with the brands, it's really exciting. We work with Wawa, First Trust Bank, Stroman, which is one of the Bimbo Bakery brands. We've done strategy for Independence Blue Cross here in Philadelphia. We really get into their businesses so that we can answer questions that they essentially would be able to answer quickly about their brand. We have to become experts on their brand and say, this asset would be true to voice for this brand. This wouldn't be an authentic move for that brand. And so it's really fun to sit on that side of the table and really be a marketing geek. I mean, we're driven by the data, and you have to have great data to be able to make good decisions, not emotional decisions. I've been in this business too long to make emotional decisions anymore. I would imagine certain sellers see me coming and going, oh God, the normal stuff isn't going to work on this gal. She's and her team. It's really going to be about the numbers and the numbers helping us make the decision. The other thing I really wanted to do is my friend Steve Ryan at the Cardinals, who's I always say I have 4 brothers by birth and 1 brother by work. And that's Steve Ryan at the Cardinals, great guy. Steve said to me, you are a great teacher and you need to go teach. And I said, I don't want to teach at a university. I have so much respect for those who go do that, but I don't think that's what I'd like to do. But what would be interesting is teaching people how to sell in the trench. And so I created a part of our company called Sponsorship Edge, which advises properties on really how to set up a sales sponsorship group. And then, there's so much information you need to have about your property, the market, the region, how decisions are made in a place from Wichita to Peoria to SNHU Arena in New Hampshire. We've done venue analysis for SMG, now ASM Global, across the country, where we'll really come in and help them create their sales story, create their rate card, develop and enhance their current inventory, create entitlements, those kinds of things, and then work with their sales team on the ground. Oftentimes it's one person who's doing two jobs. They might be the head of public relations and the head of sales, or the head of marketing and the head of sales. And, we basically give them the tools and guidance and calls with me and my team to get them up to speed where they really know what they're doing. And so now, as opposed, we don't sell, as I said, for the properties, but we teach them how to do it. And the properties that we've done sales advisory on, they've seen an increase of 30% in sales growth within 6 months of working with us, because sometimes they just need a little help. We're kind of like the bat phone of sponsorship sales. When in doubt, give us a call. We'll give you the advice, talk you through the negotiation of the face-off. And so it's fun because we get to keep our toe in the sales pool and in the brand pool, so we know what brands are looking at, and we think that POV is really valuable to our customers on both sides.
So what are you seeing now in the marketplace, even before our current situation right now with the entire industry locked down, right? That doesn't mean Wawa's and your other brands, they don't stop their business, right? Everybody's still cranking. Before this even happened, what do you see the behavior being and the ROI expectations of brands? How has that pushed a traditional property? And how do you connect the dots to lead those brands into really understanding from a property's perspective the value that they bring, right? And then the kind of the connection between the two of fan engagement, consumer awareness, brand awareness, driving traffic, all of those things that from that one side of the table and bringing it over to the other. But how is that changing now, especially in the digital space that's a lot cheaper, actually? So,
well, yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think let's rewind. So let's go back to February 1st, and we're doing this interview, and it's a very different conversation. It's about brands being bullish on 2000, brands preparing for a potential recession in 2021. Brands are thinking, how do I continue to diversify? Certain brands, depending on the market, will advise to let go of signage. We're like, you know what? Signage is great if it's TV visible. But if you're not building brand in a market, you need to pivot to engagement and driving social digital engagement. I was listening to an interview yesterday on the SBJ World Congress of Sports, and someone was talking about the fact that activation has changed. Activation doesn't need to be the pop-up tent with the table handing out, a wristband or a little fan or whatever it might be. It's really, activation is now living in multiple worlds, and you can really activate digitally, socially as effectively at times as you can on site and reach far more people. I think that's critical. It's about creating reasons for fans to engage and want to engage and see the value that the brand and the team bring together. So I think today, what we're seeing with the current crisis that we're in is brands are being cautious. All of our partners happen to be critical brands. Our friends at Stroman are doing their best to keep all the bread on the shelves. Wawa is open and serving customers for takeout as well as delivery services. And our clients at First Trust Bank are working to help small businesses that they bank throughout the region. And the focus right now for these brands is on their customers and their associates and making sure that they're being true to who their brand is. I think you'll see in the coming weeks and months, I think it'll be a domino effect. The first team to fall, I don't want to say to fall, the first league to fall into play is going to give other leagues and their sponsors the opportunities to really start talking again socially. I think brands need to be a little cautious right now, especially it all depends on the sector that they're in. And so many brands, you turn on the news, you turn on regular television and you're seeing a lot of brands leaning in on, we're about supporting first responders, supporting people that are in need of food, an offset of income due to losing jobs. Unemployment numbers come out today. God bless the people that are in that situation. We'll get through this. It's going to be okay. But hang in there and reach out to friends and family for support. I think it's one of those things that, we have to remember what is going on. This is a virus that is taking people's lives, and brands have to be cautious not to go back into sports activation too quickly and appear tone deaf. I think that's something that's really important that we need to remember. There will be a time, Q3 and Q4 activation is going to be through the roof. Social consumption right now is just at all-time highs. I'm on my phone constantly looking at Twitter, at Facebook, Instagram, seeing what people are doing, and TikTok. Even you kind of look at TikTok as it's like the relaxation, water cooler fun. But I think you're going to see brands really trying to lean in. There'll be a community tie first, and then slowly, as we get later into the year and back to some sense of normalcy, I think you'll see brands start to have a lot of fun again. But right now, the fun is focused on things like family at home, supporting parents who have children, upstairs running around, and creating that sense of community. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It was perfect. Now, do you see brands pushing properties to have a plan in place? So if there is a stoppage again, if there is whether it's a union or whether it's a global thing, are brands going to start asking that questions? Well, if this happens again, what's your plan B? How do we keep the momentum going? Is there are you starting to look for gamifications, VR technology? Is that all things that you guys are talking about?
So ironic. Yes, we actually are. I think that we are advising clients that are going into new contracts to create broader contingencies. And I think force majeure, for those of you who don't know what it is, Google it. Majeure is really spelled interestingly. So you'll have fun learning how to spell that. But force majeure is something that I remember looking at it on 9/11. I was at the Philadelphia Eagles. And we needed to address this situation. I think force majeure is going to change forever based on this epidemic. I think that the value that brands lose when they're not able to activate that IP, that trademark value, is significant. And I think sometimes in force majeure, it's only linked to games and performance of games. And the reality is, in a long-term multi-year partnership, whether it be NBA, NHL, NFL, MLS, so on and so forth, MLB, you do activate in the off season because of that digital social activation connection to the consumers and the fans, and wanting to connect with them and give away a trip to spring training, in November, or engage with NFL fans around the draft. Some brands can't do that right now, and so that value is lost. And they're doing it because it would negatively, either the comments coming back at them will be truly negative, that they appear tone deaf. I think that those are things that are going to change forever, and that every brand should have a contingency plan as to, if NFL games are played for the first preseason games, as an example, if those games are in fact played to an empty building, if you have signage, how is that going to be offset in the rest of the year? And I will tell you that I believe teams, the smart teams, are really going to lean in on doing what's right by the partner. Brands have long memories. And if this is not handled well, I think that it will hurt renewals for teams, and they need to keep that in mind. And it sounds like a threat, and I don't mean it that way. It's just the reality of there are other choices in where to spend marketing dollars. And it's a lot cheaper to go out and buy a bunch of flighted media and social and digital banner ads and whatnot. The reason people buy sponsorship is because of the IP and because of the direct connection to the team and the fans. And we as sports marketers need to make sure that that value continues to be there. And that means the teams and properties are going to need to really listen to their brand partners and understand that some of these companies are in significant pain. They're laying people off, they're doing pay cuts, and we need to be partners right now. We need to listen to the brands, and properties need to understand that these are long-term investments in relationships.
So well said. Just nuggets of gold information in there. You ready for a question?
Sure.
All right. So here's one that was texted over to me. Advice you would give someone just coming into the industry, and what skills are you looking for, whether it's working for you or what are teams and brands looking for?
I always, and I'll speak to what I look for because it really depends on what type of a job you're going into. But in sponsorship sales, one of the things I always really looked for is someone's ability to write and then someone's ability to manage process. I was a tough interview back in the day at the Eagles. I'd actually turn a computer around and make you do an on the spot writing sample, writing about either a process that you had led from conceptualization to execution, or having you write a letter to a sponsor just saying, hey, listen, we're sorry your LED was due to a technical difficulty, didn't fire the other day, and here's what we're going to provide you as a make good. Being able to write is so important. And as a government major, I had to write a lot of papers. Now, granted, they were about, it was about communism and Nietzsche and, it was government stuff. But it teaches you how to write and be analytical and make an argument. And I think that is what is the best skill. The second skill I look for is people who have creative backgrounds. I remember interviewing a gal. I'll do a shout out to Lauren Tonkin, formerly Lauren Quayle. Lauren came in to interview and she had attended the University of Richmond. I interviewed her for 4.5 minutes and she thought she had blown the interview. But I looked at her resume and I said, nice to meet you, Lauren. And I said, I see you're a journalism major with a minor in graphic design. And she said, yes. I said, great. Do you have any questions for me? Because if you're a journalism major, you know how to write. And if you're a graphic design minor, you have a creative eye. And in sponsorship sales and sponsorship activation, that's critical. So I don't necessarily, I actually have people on my team that I have hired from Ohio University's graduate program. I told Zach Lazaro on my team, I did not hire him necessarily because of his MBA and MS. In sports management. I actually hired him because he had, after high school, gone and played 3 years of minor league hockey in Alaska on his own. And that showed me he had courage. He was not afraid to take risk. And I knew that OU had taught him all those other things I was looking for. I knew I, had him provide writing samples. I knew he had an analytical mind, and he was hired. So I think that's really what I look for is people that are great writers and the ability to manage process, because that is sponsorship. And whether it's sales or service, it's sponsorship.
Just great words of advice, Molly. This has been fantastic. I just appreciate your time, everything that you've done. How do people get a hold of you?
They can reach out to me at molly@povsportsmarketing.com is my email. I know right now is a time that there's a lot of uncertainty for folks that are young coming out of college looking to get into this business. I'd encourage you to reach out to people right now at teams and leagues and say, hey, listen, I know you're busy, but do you have time for a cup of coffee? I do. And I'll make the time because I think it's important. We all know that there are others we need to pull up with us. And I think that we need to take the time right now to counsel the next generation of sports marketers. I think you'll be amazed if you reach out to people who their title might scare you. They were once sitting right where you are, and they'll absolutely take the cup of coffee and make a little time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time with us today. How's that for a segue?
Thank you very much, and an honor to be here. Be safe and stay healthy, everybody.
You too. Domo arigato over there, Molly.
Ohio gozaimasu from
Yes.
Philadelphia.
This is Rob. That's Molly over there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this morning. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.